Okay, we're going to look at patterns on shapes now. There's two panels that we want to be able to use. The first one's swatches. If either of these panels aren't switched on, you're just going to go into the window over here and tick them to switch them on. The other one I want is the appearance panel, so I'm going to switch my appearance panel on. I'm just going to put that underneath over here. Now basically these are the two things I'm going to use. So I'm going to use my move tool. I've got a picture of an outline of a surfboard here, and if I go over into the appearance panel, I can see stroke and fill, and I've already selected my object. So all I've got to do is to go into the fill to put some different colours in. Now that's all very well and very easy. If I want to put a gradient in, I can choose a gradient. In fact, I can even change the gradient up in my gradients panel over here by altering it. If I want to move it, make it lighter and darker, or if I want to change the colours altogether, I can go into there and change my gradient around completely, and it all affects the object that I've got at the moment highlighted. So I'm going to click off there. I'm going to go back into my swatches. Patterns are again something that I can put in now. There's a few patterns here I can see. If I use my drop down, they're available in here for me, and I can change them around. There's some quite interesting ones. I'll show you where they came from in a minute. But one thing, when you've got a pattern in there, something you can do with it is you can change the pattern using what's called the scale tool. Now over here on the left hand side, there's one here. If I hover over it, says scale tool. I'm going to choose the scale tool, and I'm going to go in. Sorry, before I do that, I'm going to double click on my object, and when I've double clicked, if you see up here, it now says layer and it says path. What we've actually done is kind of gone inside the drawing. If I now choose my scale tool, I can go onto the corner of it, but before I do that, I'm going to hold down my tilde button. Now the tilde button is the sort of strange curvy little button which is just underneath the escape button on your keyboard. If I hold down tilde at the same time that I drag, watch what happens to my pattern. You can see my pattern gets smaller, so I'm going into it in making the pattern itself smaller within that surfboard design. Same thing, if I hold down tilde and pull it outwards, my pattern gets bigger. So I've got quite a lot of things I can do with the pattern. Now if I'm, it doesn't matter if I'm inside or outside of isolation mode. Obviously double clicking it puts me into isolation mode, clicking the back arrow takes me out of isolation mode. Doesn't matter which one I'm in. If I want to move the pattern inside the shape, I can do that as well, again using the tilde button. So all I've got to do, I've got my move tool selected, I hold down my tilde button and I just drag. It looks like I'm dragging the whole surfboard, but if you notice, all I'm actually doing is dragging the pattern inside that outer shape. So again, I've got some, apart from shrinking it or expanding it, I can actually move it around to give it a different effect as well. I mentioned earlier that there were different patterns that we could use, and there are, so I'm going to show you where some of those patterns can be found now. I'm just going to put my appearance, instead of having it floating around, I'm going to put my appearance panel up the top with the others and just lock it out the way. Just smack it up there, and I'm going to open up my swatches again. Now at the bottom of swatches you'll see there's something that says swatch libraries menu. Before I do that, I'm going to select my object again. I'm going to open up this library. Now you can't see all of them because some of them are going off the screen, but lower down there's one called patterns. I'm going to open up patterns, and I'm going to go for the one that says decorative legacy. I'm going to choose, and there's my decorative legacy panel. I can bring that up over here. Now again, I can click on these, and as I click through them, it changes patterns within here. So again, if I wanted to go in and change any of these to make the patterns bigger or smaller or move it around, I can, but I can choose from all these different patterns. And this is just one of the panels. There's lots of different ones with all of these panels in. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go at making my own pattern. So I'm going to choose something called the blob brush. I'm going to choose a colour for my blob brush, so maybe I'll go for a pink, and I'm going to make myself a little shape. Bit of a wavy kind of shape. In fact, I might just copy that shape twice. So I'm going to select it, then use Alt and drag to make another copy of it. There's my second one, and I'm going to change the second one by changing the colour over here. Change my fill colour to this. Once I've done that, I can simply highlight both of my shapes in one, and I'm going to just drag it into the swatches panel. I'm going to pop it over here. It goes in there. That's a new pattern. I don't need to keep my original one now, so I can delete it. And to apply it, all I'm going to do is select my shape, and the same as I've done before, come over here, click, and there you go. I've managed to put my pattern into my surfboard. And again, if I want to alter that pattern around, I can change it using the tilde key.